guest today is Tom Borrow, who very soon will finally be descending upon Vancouver to play his long overdue debut with the VRS. Welcome, Tom. I'm so happy that finally we've managed to catch up.
Well, it's lovely meeting you finally, Leila. I must say, it's been a long time, very overdue.
Yes, I'm just one of your biggest fans, and I want to know more about how you started doing what you're doing, why the piano. Tell me everything about yourself that you feel you can share with an audience.
How I started or how I came about to playing the piano it's a good question. It kind of happened by mistake, I guess. I had some sort of some toy, I guess, back at home as a kid, which sort of resembled something like a keyboard, which I'm told I grew attached to. And at some point, I sort of did the upgrade. My parents bought me a nice upright piano, and I started taking piano lessons just as there wasn't anything planned, really. My parents aren't musicians, so this was all unintended.
Are you an only child?
Actually, no. I have two younger brothers.
And what do they do? Well, they're probably still at school or something.
One is 12 and one is 8.
Oh
and
my
God!
Both, yeah,
it's a big age difference. But they're both also studying musical instruments. The older one is studying violin.
Great.
And the younger one is studying trumpet.
So, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I mean, trumpet, we've actually had a trumpet recital from Tina Ting Helseth here in the past. Mm-hmm. And we just had very recently a hugely successful concert with, believe it or not, a trombone player, a very great trombone player from England, which was just quite amazing. Great guy. So, so you started playing the piano, and I know you studied in Israel and you've won all kinds of competitions. So you're still based in Israel as your career is growing and developing.
Yes, I am.
Are you having lessons from a multitude of people, or?
Well, I guess as time goes by, I find more pairs of ears who I like to play for. I also find it very important to I'm always interested to hear feedback from people I admire their opinion. When I have the chance, depends on which country I'm at.
Yes.
I go and I like to play for someone, especially if it's a new program. Then that would be something I would definitely do.
Have you been to the northwest coast of America? Have you been to Seattle yet?
No, never.
Because I remember the last time you were supposed to come, I think it was tied in with a performance for the Seattle Chamber Music Festival. Is that right? And then, so this is your first time coming to this remote part of the world.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. We have an absolutely amazing audience. All our musicians comment on how great our audiences are. So I think you can be sure that your concert will be wonderful and you have nothing to worry about. In fact, when I founded this organization about 40 years ago, one of the very first artists I brought, who was young like you, I said to him as he was about to walk out on stage, "You're going to play better here than you've ever played anywhere before." And when he came off before intermission, he said to me, "I think you're right. I can't believe the vibes from this audience." So, so it's going to be great. How did you choose the program that you're now playing? I presume it's probably the same one as Wigmore, or is it different?
It's very similar. I'll be omitting one of the pieces in Wigmore Hall, which is the Scriabin Sonata.
Right.
But all the rest will be there. What link the Well, I guess what all the pieces have in common is that I love them to bits, first of all, because I always like to play repertoire that I love, first and foremost. In terms of linkage between the pieces, well, the first half will be Bach Italian Concerto.
Yes.
And right after it will be the Franck Prelude, Chorale, and Fugue, which is, although a post-romantic piece, it's very much back-relating to the Baroque and its traditional forms.
Yes.
Which is why I love the coupling of the Bach and the Franck together.
Yes.
And after the intermission, I'll play two Russian, quite, I think, relatively underplayed pieces by two great Russian composers. The Scriabin Fifth Sonata, after the Poem of Ecstasy, and the Corelli Variations to finish, which also actually has a bit of a back-relating sense to it, as it goes looking back on the La Folia, which is a theme that is best known as the Corelli Variations.
That's great. And have you, over the period of time that you've been traveling and playing, have you had much time to increase your concerto repertoire? Because I see you've got some pretty fantastic orchestral engagements in your pocket, and you've played some pretty amazing orchestras in the States and in Europe. Are you learning new repertoire all the time?
I actually just recently came back from my first ever performance of Rachmaninoff 3. So that was a new concerto for me, and I just played it about a week ago for the very first time with the London Philharmonic Orchestra.
Great.
Yes, that was quite the experience. But yes, I've been on the run now with a lot of concerti. Apart from the Rachmaninoff, I also run around quite a bit with. I had a few engagements with Beethoven's Fourth Concerto.
Right.
Actually, next season, I will have to play all 5
Beethoven's.
Yes.
Great. Where? In different cities or in the same place?
Many different places, but mainly in. I have quite an interesting engagement, actually double engagement in Sao Paulo with the Sao Paulo Symphony.
Fantastic.
So next year,
yeah,
I'll be playing the Concerti 1, 2, and 3 by Beethoven, and then the year after I will do 4 and 5. So it's 2 long visits.
It's a wonderful place it's a good orchestra, isn't it?
They're wonderful. I played with them actually, Beethoven 4.
Now I gather you have such a hybrid accent. I mean, a hybrid English accent. When you speak English, it would be very difficult to tell where you come from just if one didn't know your background. Now, I understand your parents are both chefs.
Just one. It's my father.
Oh, just one.
Yeah.
Your father.
My father's actually English, and my mother is Israeli, but from Polish roots. So yes, you're not the only person who says it's hard to know where I'm from, based on also the looks and also the accent. I've been told that a lot.
It's really more the accent, which is, well, it's the first time I've really heard you speaking today, because I've just seen odd clips of you saying something. I see that you've also had some coachings with Murray Perahia, who is an extraordinary musician. And are you still having coaching with him?
The program I took part in was a program that is conducted by the Jerusalem Music Center in Israel, Mishkanot Sha'ananim. And there's a program where a small group is chosen from about 15 to 18. And they get they're regularly mentored by Murray Perahia, as you said. So I was part of that program, but still to this day, I also get to, even though I've outgrown the program in terms of age, he keeps in contact with the graduates, so-called. And I'm
that's wonderful.
very privileged to get to play for him from time to time.
I'll never forget, I mean, he's been here quite a few times. He used to start his tours in North America by coming first to Vancouver. And one day I asked him about his third or fourth visit. The year before he played in Vancouver, he played a concert in Seattle, a recital as well. And his concert in Seattle was recorded. And he has never allowed any of his performances in Vancouver to be recorded. So on this particular time when I met him at the airport, I said to him, "Tell me, Murray, why do you allow Seattle to record your performance, and you've never allowed us in Vancouver to record your performance?" And he said, "Well," he said, "to be honest with you, I like to come to Vancouver first on my North American concert tours because you have such a great audience and they make me feel so comfortable. And I never let my first concert be recorded." And I said, "Well, then sometime in the future, could you come here fourth or fifth?" And he said, "I don't think so. I need to come first to Vancouver." Well, of course, he's not touring anymore, sadly. But the other thing he said to me, I mean, everything Murray Perahia says stays up there because it's so interesting. He said, if an audience is restless during his performance, he blames himself because he's not holding their attention. And I think that's a very interesting way of looking at things. Speaking of which, since COVID, we have stopped printing programs. But it's so interesting, Tom, because we can keep the house lights darker and the audience is 10,000% more attentive.
Oh, I like that idea, actually.
It's quite miraculous. I mean, you know, the benefits of not printing programs are huge. We don't have to cut down any more trees for the VRS. It saves us a fortune. And the people are much more attentive. So far, it's working well, and we don't intend changing. So do you think that COVID in any way had an effect upon the trajectory of your career, or did you just use the time to study more, or how did you deal with it?
I was supposed to have quite a few projects, I think, were cancelled. It was supposed to be the sort of the hype was starting, and it got completely off.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, yes, as you said, I used the time to work and study and practice and learn repertoire I would probably have never learned otherwise. For example, I learned the Hammerklavier Sonata. Which was a really fascinating project, and I don't think if there wasn't any such long periods of lockdown, then this would have never happened. So I took advantage of what there was, I guess, and used time to sort of meditatively sit down and practice with peace of mind. I think that's it's not always something that you find very easily. I think it's such a busy, fast world.
Of course. I mean, did you, at what point in your life did you realize that you wanted to be a musician who would be traveling the world and playing concerts for people?
It's hard to pick a particular point. I mean, I've enjoyed it from the get-go. I think the first time it dawned on me that this is something I would like to pursue is probably the first time I played with an orchestra. Because I think that was quite a surreal experience for me. So I think at that point, definitely.
Yes.
I said to myself, this is definitely something I would like to live off.
Do you, when you are on the road and playing concerts, are you running around like crazy, or are your engagements spread apart?
If I need to learn new repertoire, I like to have some gaps. I don't want to, drive myself completely crazy. But so it very much depends on the program and the repertoire.
Yeah.
If, let's say, I would have to learn a new recital program, or a very large concerto like that of mine, for example, then I would take a certain gap for study, because I think that's quite important.
Absolutely. And you would go home to Israel to do that?
Yes, yeah.
And you have a nice piano to practice on?
Yes, well, I actually also can practice in the academy, in Buchmann-Mehta School of Music. So that's also very convenient.
Yes. And generally speaking, I mean, I don't know if you can see the eyes behind me peering at you. Can you see the poster on the wall? Paul Lewis. Paul actually chose our Hamburg Steinway for us. We all went over to Hamburg, and the head technician from London came as well, and so did our piano technician from Vancouver, because I can tell you, as far as I'm concerned, there are two very, very important things you need if you're running a recital series or chamber music. They are, number one, the piano, and number two, the technician who looks after the piano. Of course, if you're a violinist or a cellist or a violist or whatever, or a brass player, you travel with your own instrument. But when you're a pianist, you're at the mercy of whatever it is in the hall for you to play on. I presume, looking at the kinds of engagements you're getting now, that the pianos are all good.
Yes, many of the pianos I get to play on are fantastic, but still often very different. So as you say, there is definitely trying out a hall or getting to know the place is a big part of it. Is getting to know the instrument and somehow getting used to it, and also reacting to its characteristics. Even it's not only an instrument. I mean, also violinists and trombone players, as you say, will probably say that they have to get used to the acoustics, because that's also a big part of getting used to the space. And the acoustics change when the audience comes in. So in real time, you have to just be attentive and react immediately to pretty much everything.
I don't want to keep you for too long. Have I forgotten to ask you anything? No, I think I just want you to have a safe flight and get here and just be able to, you will practice on my piano at home, and we'll take you into the hall in the morning so you can have a long time with the piano, and you'll meet the technician and everything will be great. The only thing I can't predict at this time is the weather.
I'm very open to gray weather, because in Israel I don't see it much, so it's actually a refreshment for me.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, we've had the weather, of course, in the world is wacky now, and everything is different. It's the coldest April I can ever remember, except about 18 years ago, 16 years ago, when Lang Lang came, and I remember it's snowing heavily when we had to get him back to the airport after the concert. Anyway, I want to wish you safe travels, and we really, really look forward to meeting you and hearing you in Vancouver.
Yeah, I can't wait. Really looking forward.
Good. I'll be at the airport in my Mini, so don't bring too much luggage, okay?
All right.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Lovely meeting you, Leila.
Lovely to meet you. Bye.
Bye-bye.